Okay, so let's start. Mr. Nishant, welcome back to one more exciting broadcast, which we are going to do today. And today's topic is mostly about vibe coding, and it's the most happening thing right now.
Yes.
It so before we get into vibe coding, I want to know what is happening in the industry. What did you read? Did you learn something new? Anything which caught your attention?
Uh, Hi.
I
Uh,
know something which caught my attention, which is Emperor running successfully in theaters. Go and watch. But yeah, leaving it to you.
hmm. No, I haven't been reading much. Was very, very busy at work. So I didn't, I think last almost a month, I didn't catch up on anything outside my work stuff. So really waiting to listen from you. Let's talk about vibe coding itself. What's going on? And
Okay, cool. So I wanted to maybe dissect it in three stages. First stage is I was trying to search from large scale organization perspective. You have large code bases which can be legacy, which can be extremely complicated, which can be single repo or multi repo. You don't know whatever it is. Okay, and I had such scenarios in my organization where I had the legacy code bases written in multiple programming languages. I majorly deal with the platform engineering. So the programming languages that I am dealing with is mainly let's say Helm charts, Ansible script, Terraforms, Python. These are the foundation. I don't deal with mostly the UI kind of a code, but these are the large scale repos that I had, in my kitty. So I was talking to one of a co-founder recently who kind of work on the similar paradigm where he is into an application which is kind of indexing code bases and making meaning out of it. Okay, that's how it is. So what I have realized is um, if you are dealing with an LLM in your code base editor, for example, it can be Cursor, it can be VS Code. The language is the most important thing. What are you inputting to it? What that based on that is what output you're getting. And it is true for the code base also. So what he told me is the better commenting your code have, if you
ah,
just ask the code to, explain the code to me, the better explanation will come out. So it is extremely important point number one to notice, even if it is legacy code base, first thing that you do with an LLM is just tell the LLM to add the comments, improve
oh,
the comments, review the comments, add as you know detail as possible in the logic sections and everything, review it with the team members, you do it. So I went back and did the same thing. And interestingly, that is not enough. Okay. So the problem that we generally deal with is I let's say you have 1,000 files and maybe like 20 folders. These are the kind of code bases that I deal with. Then even if you have so many comments, you cannot copy paste all the comments and then put it onto your chat and say, explain the word to me, right? That's
yeah.
that's kind of getting complicated. So I found an interesting open source tool. So let me share my screen. So it is called as Repomix. It's an interesting tool written I think in Python or Node. I don't remember. So what Repomix does is you just it's an npm tool. So you just have to you get it as a plugin in VS Code also. Okay, so you have to
Mhm.
add the plugin. It just builds a prompt for you, and what happens is you can right click on your code base, and then you can just tell Repomix to generate uh, custom output for my code base. So
Okay.
what this does is it goes out and creates a repomix.output file which indexes your entire code bases, and then it details out the things.
Okay.
So let's see if it is available. Yeah, so let's try to install it and see. Okay.
What does it do exactly? I didn't understand. Okay, it
Yeah.
goes to
So
your whole code base, and
so
how does it help?
you,
Yeah.
you see the repo here?
Yeah, I see it. Yes.
Then I can do a repo run. Okay.
Mm.
So now it is running the SRC. It will
Yeah.
create an output file. Once it has created an output file, let's see that.
Okay.
Hopefully it runs. It does not need a permission. Yes, it has created. Okay. So there is a repo text you see.
Fine. Yeah.
You see all the details about code. You
Okay.
it does the purpose, it does file format, guidelines, notes. It gives you the complete repo structures. It tells that what type of file it is, JX. It gives you the class definitions. It gives you every damn information about your repository. You
Okay.
see this?
Okay. Yeah.
Now what you do is you go to your copilot and you see repomix output.txt, right? It is already attached because that is the context that I'm giving to the
Fine.
copilot. And just let's try a few sample prompts here. So let's
Mm.
say, see, this is prompt for this file contain my entire code base. Please review an overall structure and suggest any improvements. Okay, this is a sample prompt that it is given in this GitHub link of Repomix. Come back and paste the same prompt. Give the context of your output.txt.
Mm.
Now this will give you the entire details. So as if you're coming to an organization, if you
Yeah.
are trying to understand a code base, you generate
Fine.
this file, you just type in this prompt, it gives out the entire details about the code base, it gives you detailed explanations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you do the
This.
same thing without repomics and just say slash explain. It
Yeah.
will explain the code base to you, but it will not explain it in this detail. The reason
Fine.
why you're getting in this detail is because you have already created an output.txt, and then that is your input to the LLM. So
Yeah.
inherently, you're improving the context of LLM and you are getting
True.
details of it.
See, I was trying, let's say, vibe coding almost, I mean, maybe even a year ago when, we were all initially playing with cursor. And at that time, there was something we could put it in the chat window on the right side, even before Composer, even on VS Code, we could say at the rate workspace or in
Correct,
cursor at the
correct,
rate base,
correct.
and it goes
So
through the entire structure. This
ex-
makes it
ex-
much easier because a single file has a context all the time. Even,
exactly. So even
but don't you think people
I
like
tried, I,
Surf and yeah,
I compared at the rate workspace without
yeah,
Repomix. I tried it with Repomix, and with Repomix, it gets me much better
okay,
results.
okay,
So,
okay,
so everything gives you results. Okay. The question that we should ask is the quality of results, how much
yeah.
quality that you need, and what
Uh,
is the richness that you need. So these tools are giving you the richness.
it's a locally installed tool, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it,
nothing is going out. It's all local in your
yeah.
laptop.
So that's
Everything. Yeah. So
mm,
this, I found it extremely simple, right? It's an extremely simple way of handling things. For example, if you look at Repomix output file, this is
mm,
something which explains your code and it is converting it into textual format because LLMs understand natural language than anything else, right? So it is inputting that. So you're just enriching the responses that you're getting. And I found it extremely good. This is extremely good for if you have large code bases. Now, I tried one more thing. Okay, I had code bases where multi-repo kind of a use case, where I have one code base in one repository, another code in another repository. Now, none of these LLM tools are so genius enough to look into two different code bases and give you.
Yeah, it's true. Even the code base that I mean, I'm not coding actually. I'm leading that project and I know the code base. I know that it is multi-repo stuff. Okay, I've seen code base which are connected to a completely different repo. And yeah, if what you're saying is repo mix can even do multi.
Correct. So if you want to do a multi-repo, which I did not try, but the idea is you create a repo mix output .txt from the other repository, and then
Yeah.
instead of one context, you give two contexts, and then you give an accurate representation of prompting. For example, you say my primary code base is in this repository, and this is the file representing that code base. Now, tell me in that context, in this current repository, where and all the references are there, whatever you wanted to do, right? Then that way
Mm.
also it kind of helps you in searching a bit more meaningful. It's not that efficient yet, but I feel this kind of gave me an understanding of how to deal with LLMs when you're coding, right? Your blind typing is not going to help you unless you
Yeah.
are that detail oriented person you who can type in extremely in detail. But these kind of tools, I'm not promoting Repomics here, but ideally this is something which I found very easy. And because for me it's there in the plugin list for VS Code, it's easier for me. There are multiple other tools like this. This is just one tool. uh, i i
Okay. Yeah.
i feel
I would say my interest is really comparing it with whatever Cursor offers themselves and compare it with whatever Windsurf offers themselves or VS Code and how different is it, when because
my
how we are going to use it finally, right? We are going to use it
correct.
to edit some of these files or just implement a completely new feature. Then Cursor goes and edits a lot of different files. Okay, it'll be
We'll get
always
into that topic next. Okay. So
okay.
this is in the context of you have a large code base and it is a legacy. You wanted to understand that code base. You wanted to make some improvements on top of it. This is how you deal with it. It's an approach. It's not a tool-driven idea. The intent of giving this example is you should understand this is one approach that you should take to address a large code base, which is legacy. Okay, that is we are
Okay,
dealt with that.
interesting.
Now to answer your second question, um, how does it work in Cursor and with VS Code? So one thing which I realized is, for example, you can see Copilot edits in this tab, right? And you can
Yeah,
see Copilot chat, and you have an inline edit also for Copilot.
yeah.
So Copilot edit is nothing but compose from Cursor, and this is an agentic workflow which is implemented on top of VS Code, exactly same as Compose. Chat is not Compose, but it's basically you are ideating on the side chat and then you're referring some files and then ideating. Inline edit, exactly same like cursor tab. VS Code has also implemented the same feature. So basically, whatever is there in cursor has come to VS Code also. So it's exactly the same. One more thing which I understood is GPT-4o now takes an image as an input and you can generate code behind it. So that feature is also there. So that makes it easier for you to do compose from right side and get the files and all the pieces. Now, I had a recent experience of coding. Okay, so what I did was I wanted to develop a user interface based application which does some kind of agentic workflow. Okay, so I used Cursor for that. And my background is I do not understand the user interface code because I'm not a JavaScript guy. I don't know anything. Okay, so it created initial files easily using VS Cursor, Compose, and all. And I tried to be as detail oriented as I can to for it to create a lot of things. But one thing I realized is even if you give out, I gave like a one paragraph of architecture, structure, and all that pieces. I had a very large prompt and I put it into Compose. I thought it was going to do some magic. It did not do a magic. Ideally, it kind of gave me a half cooked stuff. So that is when I realized you need to start small, okay, extremely small. So then I had an experience where I shifted to creating a backend code, which is using a Python and a as a Lambda function in AWS. And I do not have experience with Lambda. Okay, so for your information, I know Python, so that was my background. So this time it gave me an edge because I know Python, I know how the basic structures, I know the basic frameworks, what is good to do, what is not good to do, and all. And the application which I was supposed to create was uh, it was a Slack bot which is interacting with. So I created a Slack app, and Slack, if you do a command, it posts to the Lambda function as a post one. And when you receive a post, I am calling few other external data sources, fetching the data, formatting it as a JSON, and sending it back to the response URL of Slack. So that's a simplistic workflow. So the requirement given to me was multiple data sources. So since I had an experience with Cursor of creating something complicated which got messed up, I started extremely small. What I did
Oh,
was I asked Cursor, GitHub Copilot to create a simple Lambda function using Python, which calls an API, gets the response as JSON, format it, and send it back. That's it. That's all I typed. Okay. Extremely simple. Call an API, get the JSON, send it back. It created all the files beautifully, no issues at all. I used GPT-4o as my main compose model,
okay.
and I did not know how to package Lambda. It told me to install SAM tool and SAM build, SAM package, SAM deploy. That's it, straight three lines, and it sent it out. And with that, within 1 hour, I was able to create a skeleton application. Easy, okay. Now I did little bit of refactoring on top of it because I was passing API keys. So this is where it messed it up again. Okay. So I asked it to pick up the API key as an environment variable. So what Copilot did it created an environment variable and it passed it. But when I packaged and deployed, it never took that API key. So I was thinking, what happened? So basically, there is another configuration section in a Lambda function where you should have passed this as a reference, as a parameter. That parameter goes and hooks onto the env variable. So Copilot did not do that. Copilot only
Yeah.
created my instruction, which was to create a environment variable. So you can say it was a mistake from my side because I assumed as part of creating an environment variable, this would understand underlying framework is Lambda and it
Yeah.
will hook onto parameter. It does it. It did not do that. So that is when I realized you need to know the framework because I knew a little bit of Lambda, how it functions. I knew something has to be passed on. Then I prompted it again to tell it, no, I want it to be passed as a parameter. Then it did it correctly. Imagine if you are somebody who was not aware of this, and then you're trying to do this, you will mess it up. Okay,
Yeah.
so learning number one is when you're creating something extremely simple, start extremely simple. It will create everything for you. It will help you understand how to package and build and deploy. But the moment you're trying to do anything further, you need to know the framework. You need to know what you're doing. You need to know the multiple levels of hierarchy. What is the code language that you're using, what is the framework that you're using for deployment, where are you deploying, how it should function. If you do not know this, no LLM can help you. So that is lesson number one. Okay. Now, uh,
This is
so
where one point on what you said. Yeah, it doesn't have that full context. Okay, deployment and all the functions that you're using, all the other tools that you're using. I mean, you're using Lambda functions or whatnot, right? So that whole context is not there. I think you can still provide that complete context and get it work. And this is where players like Replit we talked about Replit a long time
Correct.
ago, right? So Replit comes in where it takes care of the whole end-to-end pipeline and deployment and everything. Okay, so this is all orchestrated inside Replit, so you don't care about all these. But not everyone want to go with Replit and automatic deployment, right? We all want to write our own code and scale it up, slowly build it up, as you said, start small, slowly build it up, and do a really production scale stuff. This is where even I haven't tried it since 6+ months, I would say, the vibe coding stuff. But then when I started building it slightly bigger than, when you go from that small application to slightly bigger, it start messing up, right? You lose control over your code.
Yeah, yeah.
You can't debug anymore. You are lost. I mean, when we have some coding experience in the past, we can still fix it. But somebody starting only with vibe coding, they will be lost after a point, right?
It's extremely. So I have an answer for that also. It happened to me also. So I was able to do this concept to production in one day. I deployed the entire stuff into production and got it working in one day. Okay, so without AI, I cannot do that. But this was a very simple logic application. Now, as you
Yeah.
said, I had multiple data sources to be called, and some of them were REST endpoints, some of them were GraphQL endpoint, and the way you call GraphQL is completely different. And you have to put a JSON query, and then that has to be different and all. And even one GraphQL endpoint had multiple queries. It became complicated. Okay, so what I did is I created a sequence diagram for myself to tell, this is pseudocode. It's not Python code. It's a pseudocode telling that, it should go and do the get calls first. And within the GraphQL, you have multiple cases. Case number one is called this query. Case number two is called this query. I created a pseudocode, and then using that, before I, build my entire application, what I did is I refactored my code using LLM. I told LLM, please refactor my code using this way. This is the structure that I am expecting. And till it took me a few iterations of prompting for it to refactor properly, but it did refactor it properly. The moment I got it refactored, that is when I started expanding. So lesson number two is understand the sequence of structures or maybe sequence of procedures that you wanted to do, and then ensure that you refactor your code before you blow it up. If you keep prompting it to write new logic, the copilot will write the logic, but it will be in extremely messy, not so optimal manner. It will have different context and it will build a huge application. I saw some meme recently that the vibe coding is nothing but how a one programmer creates a tech debt for 50 members. Okay, which is true if you keep on prompting. Uh,
Yeah,
but
but then
but I
that's where the cursor rules came into picture, right? Cursor rule was not there in the beginning, but then maybe 6 months ago, cursor rules. I never tried cursor rules, but I thought that's where all the rules are written. Whatever you are saying, right? The sequence or how it should perform each time, so that it doesn't mess up the whole thing, or some kind of what is it called? Not milestone. Where you can roll back to some kind of
correct,
rollback
correct.
point. You need to go back to a place which was working. For me to achieve it, what I did is I connected it to GitHub, put everything. Every time you check in, it goes there. You can always pull, you can discard all your local changes and again go back to the working version, start again, right? So
Correct. So
some kind of, is there something new which can stop you from messing up everything?
So you're right, cursor rules is the way to do this. But imagine you're working in a large scale corporate, and how
Not do that.
much detail you can do a cursor rules is you also still have limitations.
Yes.
You can be pretty generic about the repo and do some basic rules. But
Yeah.
when it comes to programming, it's a programmer's responsibility to understand the sequence for itself. So what I was telling is we are not in a state yet to replace the entire programmer at
Yeah.
once. It will
Mm.
happen eventually, maybe at 2 year down the line, 3 year down the line, which I understand. But at this moment, if you're somebody who is using these tools and trying to code, your expertise still count. your architecture skills still count, and that is what will create most excellent code bases. But what you can get away with is, like I did not even write a single line of code in this application. It was written entirely by AI. What I did was I manipulated AI to get what I really need. So for manipulating, need to understand what model does. For example, for my copilot chat, I always used GPT-4o model. But for my inline edit, used Sonnet 3.7. So the difference of inline edit and chat is chat has a bigger context, and I might need this to think in a reasoning manner. But in an inline edit, I just want the model to act quickly. Just look at the prompt, maybe edit something, maybe change the logic. That's it. There's nothing else. No more thinking needed, right? So for you need to understand what model to use when. You need to know what to do with which model. You need to understand what is the copilot chat, what is the copilot edit, which is agentic workflow, which you should use first. And once you expand your code base, what you should do. Okay, so I feel the tools which we have currently should be used by experienced programmers only. Like you mentioned, if there is a fresher or somebody who is coming extremely fresh, trying to do prompting, he or she will create extreme tech debt for the company. That is for sure. And I think it
Or
needs a
there
kind
should be
of
a way, okay, there should be a way to restrict to a small feature, and
correct.
he should be, I mean, the new vibe coder should be only able to edit a piece
Yeah,
of, you know,
correct.
yeah, piece of the
I,
feature.
and I saw Andre Karpati's tweet recently. He was trying to work with a JavaScript framework, and he said it overwhelmed him. So our frameworks itself are extremely complicated. I don't know why it is designed like that. For, let's say you wanted to do a React app and you just wanted to do a math function where you do a text box A plus B is equal to C. You should look at the libraries that it downloads, and then it itself is extremely complicated. So in some way we need simpler libraries.
Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah.
need
This point, reminds me something. I think we talked about it in one of our previous episodes. The guy Level CEO, Peter Levels,
uh,
uh, who, he's a one-man founder with a lot of startups.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
this guy is still coding in, I believe, PHP, and that's it. Very basic. He keeps it
correct,
basic. He's not using React, Node, or anything, Next.js, nothing. And then there was a debate, I think even Karpati, everyone was involved, where is it really necessary? Why do we keep growing, making it these coding frameworks complex and more complex? And then all developers are chasing these different kind of framework instead of actually getting things done, right? Even
correct.
when I was restarting a year ago, I I looked at what are the new things and then started with Node, then the next JS and all. But then, this debate showed me we can still keep it simple if needed, right? We can
Correct.
actually go with a very basic stuff and get things done with AI. All these frameworks probably are not necessary. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, correct. But that's what I had huge experience of coding with AI in last 1 month, and it's an eye opener for me. What I realized is concept to production, short time. You don't need anybody else. I did all that by myself. I did all that by myself, and I had time for doing other work of other management activities also, and then coding also. So imagine you being a technical manager for a company. You can code and you can produce along with the other activity that you do. It's a good thing. Okay, you don't need a lot of people for that. Second thing is a lot of things that 20-member team, 30-member team does now can be done by one or two members team. So that's very thing. Third thing is these models are extremely accurate in the code that it is given. It's very good suggestions. It's extremely useful production ready code. Okay, and like if you implement all that we have spoken, and the output that you get is high quality, and there is absolutely no doubt about the quality here. So I told my team also, without using AI tools, do not do anything. I mean, I don't suggest anybody just to sit with a blank editor and code now. I had multiple learning sessions with my team, explaining them what model to use when, how to prompt, how to use these kind of tools like Rapomix, how to prompt, create better promptings, how to look at foundational thinking, first principle thinking, create a pseudocode sequences. If you do all these things and use these tools, the output that you want to get is great. And that is all I've learned in last 3 weeks. And I hope this is beneficial for whoever is seeing this. But uh, I feel maybe 6 months later it will change, it will evolve. But I still feel people should it. You have to learn AI now. You have to learn the models. You need to look into the code base and understand how it is functioning and how it is interacting with you. Now, let's say you're a programmer and you are understanding how a model is interacting with your code base. That means you're learning somebody is like it's like someone is also coding and you're also coding, and that person is changing your code. You need to understand that person. Why is he changing? What is he changing? That is how it is. I mean, that person is a model now. Okay. Now it has come to programmers. Same thing which will happen with managers. Same thing will happen with CTOs. Same thing will happen with
Yeah.
CISOs. So everybody should understand. So everybody is going to have an AI buddy in their
See, yeah, you
context.
saw the image model came 2 days ago. Yeah,
Yeah,
GPT-4 image model. It can create the whole advertising, from the scratch. It gets the text right. It gets the message right. The design right. So, few years ago, even though image models existed, DALI, since a long time, now it has become so good that it can easily replace advertisers, designers.
correct.
Same way, as you said, everyone will have that companion who is more capable than them. Uh, that's what is happening. So when you said coding 3.7, Sonnet 3.7, Google also came up a few 2 days
Yeah,
ago, right?
I saw
2.5
that. Yeah.
slash 2.5. It seems it's
Yeah.
more capable than Sonnet 3.7, right? So it's changing. I'm just thinking, this thought is in my mind since a while. What when OpenAI comes up with a coding, an app platform or a app store kind of idea, right? Where it can also be our own consumer base or enterprise app platform, where it hooks to your enterprise data. I mean, there is a lot of work to be done, to prepare the data for such a platform. But then what happens? The thing is, if they bring up with their own platform, where you can
So
easily,
I
eh,
think, Nishant, this is what we are going to discuss in MCP.
hey, yeah,
This is MCP, Model Context Protocol.
yeah,
This,
MCP.
I mean, that's an
You
extremely
saw
different beast.
2 days ago, Sam Altman tweeted in support of MCP, even though it
Yes.
came up with Anthropic. He said, okay, that's a good tool. They had to say it. Eh,
I mean, the thing is, you should go and check online how many MCP servers are available now. There is a
yeah,
site
just
which is
spreading.
available.
Yeah.
It's amazing, man. So I'll give you an example. You're coding. This is another scenario which I want to try out actually. I do not have Cursor now or Anthropic support in my org. Otherwise, I would have tried it. But
Yeah.
ideally, imagine you're coding. Then you wanted to understand if there is any Jira ticket for this, and if there is a bug on this, what are the repositories connected, and there is a wiki where some documentation is there for some legacy thing. If you have Jira, Atlassian, everything connected, there is a Jira MCP server, so you can give your API keys to that MCP server, and you can through chat do all that you want to do,
Yes. Awesome.
everything. And this is not the only there for this is there for GitHub. There is an MCP server for GitHub. You can just type and say create a repo, review my repo.
And
That this
see,
everything is
just
available.
inside your enterprise, there should be an MCP server which connects to all the tools
That's it.
within the organization, right? Our
That's it.
Jira, our GitHub, or Confluence, whatever.
Yeah.
And it directly from the code. I mean, currently developers, in future AI can leverage all of this, keep
Correct.
on building. new stuff. This
So
is where level 5 AI, this level 1 to 5. 5 is organization. It's an automated organization. There could be level 5 automated organizations which can connect all these tools and do stuff.
correct. I think
We
with
should
that,
talk about MCP maybe next time, right?
yes, MCP is another deep topic that we should talk. And I think we are on time. It was a good discussion today.
Good.
Next month, we'll probably come with more detailed discussion because by that time, I'm sure it could have exploded. It has already exploded. When I saw 1 week back, there are hundreds of MCP servers available for all the tools that you use. Everything it is there available. So I don't know what are the use cases which will come. And I asked this to Microsoft team also. I had a meeting. Are you guys supporting MCP in any future? They did not answer me, but I hope
No, no,
somewhere it
everyone.
becomes the standard.
Yes, it has become the standard. Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
with that, I think I'll bid adieu and wish you a nice rest of your day. And thank you for watching us. A shout out to Empuran. Bye.
Bye bye.